Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Soul Land 2 Peerless Tang Men based on novel. So let's start. There was a flag in the great holy ghost's hand. He appeared very fierce as he looked at Hu Yuhao and Nunna. I shall let you feel what's it like to be devoured by thousands of souls. Your spirits will be torn apart and your bodies will become my puppets. Die. Hu Yuhao was horrified. Was this the myriad soul banner that Elder Yi mentioned? Elder Yi had once mentioned that a necromancer's control of undead creatures was restricted to a specific domain due to their limited spiritual power. However, they could use tools to enhance their control and transformation of spirits. The myriad soul banner was such a tool. He mentioned that an extremely cultivated myriad soul banner could contain tens of thousands of spirits. Against enemies, the avenging spirits could be commanded to launch large-scale attacks. All living matter affected by these avenging spirits would become carriers of these spirits. They would quickly be roped in as part of their undead legion. Once the bodies of these undead creatures were destroyed, their spirits would return to the banner, and they would continue to devour the spirits of the living to evolve. It was rumored that they were as resistant as gods when they evolved to their most highest form. However, the myriad soul banner was a tool that offended the heavens. Once a necromancer managed to successfully create it, he would definitely suffer the scourge of the heavens. It was like the negative repercussions of the light of destiny. It was only a matter of time before he was jinxed. Was this evil soul master so strong that he could possess a myriad soul banner? While he was shocked, Hu Yuhao still naturally wouldn't allow these avenging spirits to attack him. A ring of formless spiritual ripples spread. It was spiritual interference. The avenging spirits were instantly affected by his spiritual power, and they descended into chaos as they flew like headless flies. Their pathetic cries resonated throughout the underground hall. Hu Yuhao's astonishment was soon replaced by composure. Through spiritual detection and spiritual interference, he realized that there weren't that many of these avenging spirits, at most 400 or 500 of them. In addition, each of them was very weak individually. They were completely different from the powerful avenging spirits that Electrolux described, which couldn't be overcome simply with his spiritual interference. The great Holy Ghost didn't expect that the Holy Ghost flag would be rendered ineffective. This flag didn't belong to him. It was the most important treasure of the Elder from the subaltar. Not only was it a Class 7 soul tool, but it also had to be used by an evil soul master skilled at controlling spirits. In the subaltar, only he and that Elder could control it. It was left in the subaltar as a precaution. The Elder once said that the Holy Ghost flag was sufficient as long as the opponent wasn't an 8-ringed soul doluo. In addition, the great Holy Ghost was equipped with powerful evil soul skills. When he controlled this flag, he didn't use any soul skills. He only burned his 6 soul rings using a special method that belonged to evil soul masters. This provided him with enough spiritual power to control the flag. He bit the tip of his tongue and spat out fresh blood into the air, which instantly turned into a blood-red avenging spirit in the air. The avenging spirit blew apart as it flew into the air, staining a large portion of the other avenging spirits. Suddenly, the powers of the avenging spirits soared, and Hu Yuhao's spiritual interference couldn't fend them off any longer. However, the eyes of the black skull were dancing with dim golden flames. They were a type of spiritual fire that carried a shred of Hu Yuhao's spiritual awareness. The second Holy Ghost had been completely purified and submitted to Hu Yuhao. The avenging spirits in mid-air appeared to be very weird. They weren't nearly as ferocious as before, and they slowly formed corporeal faces. Tell me, what kind of organization is the Holy Ghost Church? Where is the main altar? The black skull lifted the great Holy Ghost in front of Hu Yuhao. After being cleansed by the light of purification, the great Holy Ghost's cultivation had fallen to half its original level. The great Holy Ghost was in a daze as he looked at Hu Yuhao. Holy Son. Are you the reincarnation of the Holy Son? Holy Son, you should find the Holy Emperor. He'll help us rule this world. Only those with holy powers like us are qualified to rule. Hu Yuhao furrowed his brow. Answer my question. The great Holy Ghost revealed a weird smile on his face. Holy Son, the Holy Emperor will find you one day. When that happens, it may be the best opportunity for us Holy Ghosts to rule. Long live the Holy Emperor. As he spoke, his eyes dimmed, and his entire body turned into ash, which easily escaped the claw's grasp before dispersing into the air. There wasn't even a corpse left. Everything was very strange. The Holy Ghost flag also fell in front of Hu Yuhao. Hui Yu Hao picked the flag up, but quickly crushed it with his soul power. Nana was dumbfounded. Although she knew that Hui Yu Hao was very strong, she had already gone feeble long ago, when she heard the cries of the avenging spirits, and couldn't exert any soul power herself. At that point in time, she had thought that everything was over and despaired. However, she was shocked by what followed. He turned the tide right in front of her. She wasn't even clear on how he had managed to pull it off. The crisis was destroyed, the great Holy Ghost was dead, and the skull converted from the second Holy Ghost was being controlled by him. Everything changed too suddenly. Nana. Nana was jolted to her senses after Hui Yu Hao shouted her name. Quickly, find your parents. You don't have much time. The evil stains on these avenging spirits have been cleansed under my purification spell. Once they are completely cleansed, they will be purified and rise to the heavens. If you have anything to say to them, tell them quickly. I'll be waiting for you outside. As he spoke, Hui Yu Hao was already headed outside and quickly escaped. It was very weird, as the holy servants didn't react even though the commotion inside the underground hall was quite loud. After leaving the underground hall, Hui Yu Hao bumped into 8 of them. Their abilities were greatly inferior to Nana's. They collapsed under Hui Yu Hao's surprise attack. They didn't stand a chance. The Great Holy Ghost and Second Holy Ghost are both dead, while the subaltar has been destroyed. The spirits of your loved ones are being purified. If all of you still want to see them again, quickly go inside. Hui Yu Hao stripped off their headgear, revealing young and pale-looking faces. Hui Yu Hao was enraged as he saw their dazed looks. If I wanted to harm you, you'd already be dead. Why haven't you gone inside yet? If you miss this opportunity, you'll never see your loved ones again. This is your best, and only, opportunity to leave this evil organization and free yourselves from their restraints. He added some spiritual power into his shouting, which jolted these holy servants to their senses. They rushed into the underground hall. After letting out a breath, Hui Yu Hao slowly walked out of the ordinary-looking room. He shut his eyes as he leaned on the wall outside. A wave of weakness encroaching upon his body from his spent spiritual power. I didn't expect this Holy Ghost Church to be formed by evil soul masters. No wonder they are so mysterious. Weren't evil soul masters supposed to operate by themselves? He suddenly tensed up. He was reminded of what his teacher, the dragon Doluo Mu Ien, had said to him before. When Ma Xiaodao went missing, Shrek Academy was attacked by a bunch of soul masters of unknown background. There were many evil soul masters among them. Were those people related to the Holy Ghost Church? The elder from the Holy Ghost Church's subaltar wasn't here today, or Hui Yu Hao might be the one fleeing. However, it was a pity that Hui Yu Hao was unable to obtain anything very useful from the Great Holy Ghost. The man's spirit was destroyed as he committed suicide. However, he managed to fulfill Nana's wish. At least he did something good. He had to report what he had learned regarding the Holy Ghost Church to the Academy later. If this church was helmed by evil soul masters, they might be even more dangerous than the body sect. What master? Hui Yu Hao was in a daze. Nana looked at him with a resolute look in her eyes. I mentioned that I'd serve you if you managed to save my parents' spirits. You did so, and you even purified their spirits. I have no more worries. I can only repay this gratitude with my life. If you're going to reject my offer, I won't have any further yearnings in this world. I can only choose to leave this world forever. Hui Yu Hao was stunned. He wanted to rebut her, but nothing came out of his mouth when he saw her determined look. More and more figures with pale faces and swollen, red eyes also started to appear behind Nana. They kneeled down at the same time. We don't know how to repay you. We're willing to follow you for life and serve you with our spirits. Their predicaments were similar to Nana's. After seeing that the spirits of their loved ones were finally free from the restraints of the Holy Ghost Church, they had the same feeling towards him as Nana did, even though they didn't know him. This Nana laughed bitterly. Master, I didn't want it to be like this either. However, we've been enslaved for too long. In addition, almost all of us are orphans. We no longer have any relatives in this world. If you don't want to accept us, we won't know what to do. I can't return to the academy. Master, give us instructions, even if it's just pointing out a path for us. There are 4 soul ancestors and 4 soul kings among the 8 of us. 4 of us are even soul engineers. If you won't accept us, we're unlikely to escape the pursuit of the Holy Ghost Church. Hui Yu Hao laughed bitterly. What makes all of you think that I can accept all of you? I'm just a student. Because you're from Shrek, Nana said with determination. Hui Yuhao spoke after considering his options for a moment. Let's do it this way. I won't decline your requests. If you're willing, you can follow me. In that case, I shall issue all of you a token. Leave Radiant City, and go directly to Shrek Academy to find someone called Bei Bei. He'll make the arrangements. However, all of you can't enroll into Shrek Academy. If you're willing, you can join my sect, which is called the Tang sect. The headquarters of the sect is currently located in Shrek City. If you can reach there safely, I can guarantee your safety. You don't have to be loyal to me. Once you join my sect, we'll be fellow sect members. Nana was delighted, but she continued to address him in the same way. Her body turned slightly illusory, and she escaped Hui Yuhao's control. She was adamant on kneeling. Thank you, Master. An hour later, he met Hikaitu at a secluded corner hundreds of meters away from the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy. Second senior, how is it? Hui Yuhao asked softly. Hikaitu chortled, don't worry. It's settled. Nothing will go wrong, since we have the accurate location established by your spiritual detection. In 2 hours, dazzling fireworks will be seen above Radiant City. I controlled the impact by choosing a penetrative stationary soul cannon shell. It won't affect the surroundings. What about your girl? Hui Yuhao replied, she's left. The matter has been settled, but she won't stay in the academy. I asked her to take some of the holy disciples I freed and find eldest senior. I think I managed to get some manpower for the Tang sect. Hikaitu asked, then how do we return? We're not going to climb walls, are we? There are soul tools everywhere. The security is rather tight. Hui Yuhao chortled and said, second senior, it seems like you haven't fully comprehended the magical effect of my imitation. I will imitate Na's appearance, and you'll be my shadow. As long as you don't deviate more than 10 meters from me, no one will be able to tell. We'll just walk through the front door. What the? It can even work like this. I don't recall it being so strong. Hui Yuhao said, it is the benefit of being a spiritual type soul master. Our soul skills will be enhanced along with our spiritual power. Although it wasn't the whole truth, he wasn't wrong either. Without the backing of the Skydream Iceworm's spiritual power that had fused with him, his imitation wouldn't have reached such a high level. Hikaitu was only witnessing a small portion of Hui Yuhao's enhanced soul skill now. After a minute, Hui Yuhao imitated Nana before openly entering the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy. The guards were not suspicious at all. Furthermore, it now seemed that Nana had returned to the academy. In this way, it would be even more difficult for the Holy Ghost Church to track Nana down, giving her and the others more time to escape. After returning to his dorm room, Hui Yuhao immediately recorded everything that he had experienced today, before passing the report to Fan Yu. Fan Yu was also shocked by the appearance of the Holy Ghost Church. He immediately thought of a way to get word of this out. If Illustrious Virtue Hall and Holy Ghost Church were colluding, it meant that the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy was working with an organization formed by evil soul masters. The strength of evil soul masters was something that had long been established on the continent. Furthermore, these evil soul masters were certain to cause widespread civilian deaths the moment they acted. Just as Hui Yuhao and Fan Yu were discussing this matter, a muffled thump came from afar. It was the sound of Hikaitu's stationary soul tool going off. No traces of the dirty Holy Ghost Church's subaltar would be left over. Hui Yuhao had benefited greatly from this experience. Besides earning the loyalty of Nana and the holy servants, he had also managed to obtain the Black Skull from the second Holy Ghost. This Black Skull would be pretty useful in fights. Half a year passed very quickly. Hui Yuhao was now almost at the end of his second academic year in the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy. More accurately speaking, he had been here for more than a year and 9 months. There was one thing that was similar between the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy and Shrek Academy. Vacation time. They started a little later here compared to Shrek Academy, but it also lasted for a month. Hui Yuhao was in deep meditation during this last break. He finally had some time off this academic year. Of course, he didn't plan on resting. He came here to learn, he didn't want to waste any time. There were very few in the academy who had the same mindset as him. He had raised his profile extremely high during the sparring competition, but his studies continued smoothly after he went through half a year of deep meditation, and kept a low profile afterward. Hu Yuhao worked hard to learn about soul tools. As he cultivated, he researched the profundity of soul tools. He spent his days fruitfully, even though they were mundane. As the days passed, Hu Yuhao also matured physically. He was now 17 years old, and his body was very developed now. He wasn't especially burly, but he had a build that was filled with vigor and vitality. It was very difficult to imagine a 17-year-old youth possessing a demeanor as calm and composed demeanor as him. This was greatly connected to his cultivation of the sovereign's descent. He also tried to keep the look in his eyes moderated under normal circumstances. His cultivation speed had increased after his spiritual power nourished his body in deep meditation. He managed to reach rank 43, and his cultivation speed seemed to increase along with his abilities. This was extremely good news for Hu Yuhao. However, he didn't manage to become a 5-ringed soul king. Jing Hongchen was relieved after hearing this. After all, the 3 years between the ages of 15 and 18 were very important for a genius soul master. These 3 years were critical in establishing his foundation. Xiao Hongchen and Meng Hongchen had relayed news that their cultivations had reached rank 60, becoming soul emperors. They were also class 6 soul engineers. Jing Hongchen admired Hu Yuhao's fighting capabilities. He had even beaten a 6-ringed soul emperor, even though he only had 4 rings. However, a soul emperor was a soul emperor. If everyone had the same talent, a 6-ringed soul emperor would completely dominate a 4-ringed soul ancestor. Jing Hongchen didn't believe that Hu Yuhao could challenge his grandchildren. The potential of a genius would fall as time passed. If Hu Yuhao couldn't reach rank 60 before he was 20 years old, Jing Hongchen wouldn't call him a genius anymore. Little Junior, a rough voice sounded from outside his room. Second Senior, why are you here? Hu Yuhao opened the door and looked at the excited He Kai-tu standing outside. He Kai-tu wore a mysterious look on his face. Little Junior, I have a surprise for you. Surprise? For me? What new stationary soul tool have you successfully researched? Hu Yuhao looked back at him in surprise. He Kai-tu snapped, oh no, oh no. You're getting dumb. Your life is only about the dormitory and illustrious virtue hall. Aren't you tired? You should relax when it's time to do so. You'll feel better then. You're always so tense, which is not a good thing. Hu Yuhao was slightly moved, as he had heard something similar from someone else before. It wasn't his first time. As he thought of that person, there was a slight change in the look in his eyes. Ever since he came to the Sun Moon Empire, he had received letters from elders Senior and others of his compatriots. However, the person who was supposed to be sending him letters didn't write any for him. Wang Dong, how are you? Hu Yuhao was a little down as he thought of Wang Dong. Surely he hasn't forgotten me after so long. Hey, little Junior, I'm talking to you. Focus. He Kai-tu was displeased as he shook Hu Yuhao's shoulder. Hu Yuhao hurriedly invited him in. He softly said, have you made progress on the Holy Ghost Church's matter? He Kai-tu rolled his eyes and didn't even bother entering the room. He stood at the door, and his towering figure made him seem like some sort of guardian. Jing Ziyan and Ji Juechen were also very picky. He Kai-tu did tell them that he wanted to team up with Hu Yuhao to fight them, but they wouldn't accept it. They were only interested in sparring with Hu Yuhao, who was skilled in close combat and possessed the sovereign's descent. He Kai-tu shook his head at Hu Yuhao and said, of course it isn't the two of them. How are they surprises? They are more of a shock. Guys, we've things to deal with today. He can't entertain you. As he spoke, he quickly dragged Hu Yuhao away. Hu Yuhao couldn't wait to get away from them. He followed He Kai-tu willingly this time. However, Jing Ziyan shifted and grinned as she blocked them. Ji Juechen was even more ruthless. He brandished his extraterrestrial meteoric sword. Jing Ziyan smiled as she said, it's fate that we meet. Yuhao, we haven't looked for you in days. Since we've met, let's spar. I've recently gained some enlightenment. Hu Yuhao's facial muscles twitched a little, and he said, I seem to have fought the both of you 2 days ago. You call that days? Can't you give me some breathing space? I concede defeat. Ji Juechen pointed his sword at Hu Yuhao and said, defeat me. Then I'll give you breathing space, you, Hu Yuhao glared. Ji Juechen, do you really think I'm scared of you? Don't make me beat you until you're half dead. Jing Ziyan chortled, "It's okay. I'll take care of him. Don't give me face. You can whack him first. If you've sufficient energy after that, you can also whack me." He Kai-tu rolled his eyes and wanted to pull Hu Yuhao away. He said, "Little Junior, you're really stupid. If we can't deal with them, why don't we just run away? Let's go." As he spoke, he grabbed Hu Yuhao's waist and lifted him up. He made a half turn, and his thick arms flung Hu Yuhao into the air. They had great chemistry. Hu Yuhao flipped in mid-air and initiated his soul thrusters. A blinding light shone from his back before the two of them burst towards the academy's gate. At this point, he ignored the academy's rule that no soul tools could be used in non-experimentation areas. Ji Juechen and Jing Ziyan didn't expect He Kai-tu to do this, and thus they were slow to react. However, they weren't ones to give up. They quickly chased after them. Both of them were soul emperors, and they teamed up well with each other too. Ji Juechen didn't have a soul thruster. However, that was fine, since Jing Ziyan had one. Jing Ziyan quickly climbed onto his back, and her Class 6 soul thruster was immediately activated. The sudden thrusting force propelled both of them towards Hu Yuhao. Ji Juechen had another nickname in the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy. His first nickname was Handsome Man. However, he was too cold as a person and hardly smiled at anyone or anything. The female students in the academy always nagged him for wasting his looks. However, this person that had surfaced was definitely not inferior to Ji Juechen in terms of his appearance. He was equally as handsome, but possessed a different aura. This slender youth was not as cold than Ji Juechen, as he carried a slight sense of gentility. His skin was also slightly whiter and smoother, the look in his eyes more vibrant. It didn't possess the sharpness that Ji Juechen had, but there was a sense of elegance there instead. Compared to Ji Juechen, his looks were better able to attract the attention of girls. Jing Ziyan wasn't one to care about handsome guys, but she was astonished by how handsome he was. Ji Juechen squinted his eyes, because of the light and aura that other party exuded. His sword intent also became more intense. He possessed a pair of wings with golden stripes, and had such a charming face. He even helped Hu Yuhao block off Jing Ziyan and Ji Juechen's pursuit. Yes, he was the surprise that He Kai-tu had mentioned, Wang Dong. Hu Yuhao finally recovered from his daze. He was confused, and his eyes even turned blurry from the tears that had suddenly surfaced. He increased his speed without using his soul thrusters and burst forward. He leapt forward and hugged this brother of his that had traveled so far to visit him. Wang Dong was also emotional, as he was hugged by Hu Yuhao from the side. However, he kept his cool. "Hu Yuhao, let's deal with the enemy first." "Enemy?" Hu Yuhao was momentarily dazed. He twisted his head to look at the wary Ji Juechen and Jing Ziyan. A teasing look also appeared on his face. Since he was always annoyed by the two of them, he was going to teach them a good lesson today. "Ji Juechen, Jing Ziyan, haven't the two of you always been very depressed that you can't team up to fight me? Today, your opportunity is here. This is my brother, his name is Wang Dong. Let's fight 2-on-2 here. We won't use any soul tools. Are you up for it?" Jing Ziyan laughed and replied, "Of course. He's also from Shrek, right? Very well, let's fight for the glory of our academies." Ji Juechen was as simple and direct as ever. Perhaps it was because he had met someone that could rival him in terms of looks, but he stared at Wang Dong with a burning look in his eyes. As he lifted his extraterrestrial meteoric sword, his sword-intent sword, and he shouted in a deep voice, "Come on." Ji Juechen was extraordinary even among the most extraordinary soul masters. The rarity of his cultivation method, giving up soul skills and honing his fighting skills, was comparable to twin martial souls. However, that was also because he used all his soul skills to enhance his soul power like a soul engineer, which was used to complement his fighting skills. He was practically the strongest person in terms of close combat that Hu Yuhao had ever met. Hu Yuhao tapped into his understanding of the sovereign's descent to beat him in terms of intent. However, he was definitely at a disadvantage in a real fight due to the gap in their soul powers. Hu Yuhao tapped into his understanding of the sovereign's descent to beat him in terms of intent. However, he was definitely at a disadvantage in a real fight with the gap in their soul powers. However, Ji Juechen never took advantage of him. He restrained his soul power when they sparred so that they would almost be on the same level. He focused on challenging him in terms of their sword and fist intent. This was the reason why Hu Yuhao beat him every time. It wasn't that Wang Dong's true abilities were superior to Ji Juechen's. It was just that his appearance caused Ji Juechen to feel a weird pressure, especially when Hu Yuhao stood beside him. There was something different in their auras, as if they were two different magnets with different polarities. They attracted, fused, and became a complete entity. Hu Yuhao reached his left hand towards the black figure, and his entire body shone with light. An azure light shimmered, suddenly shooting out from his body, causing the surrounding temperature to drop. Jing Ziyan's first soul skill was called illusory fog, while her second soul skill was called condensed fog. The main effect of the illusory fog was to confuse and block the opponent's vision. It could also cause the opponent to become disoriented. The condensed fog was very thick, and affected speed and judgment. They were both pretty effective mass control type soul skills, and she unleashed them at this moment. Hu Yuhao couldn't let her gain an edge over Wang Dong, allowing his spiritual seed to reach an unprecedentedly excited state. His competitive will was greater than usual for these practice matches. He attacked boldly from the get-go. The domain of perpetual ice activated. Everything in a 30 square meter area was turned azure green. Jing Ziyan's fog completely condensed. Even the soul power within the tiniest particle of fog solidified in an instant. The fog disappeared as it fell. However, just as Hu Yuhao was familiar with their abilities, they were also familiar with his. Before the azure light shone, a layer of golden light was preemptively released from Jing Ziyan's body. It was a Class 6 protective soul barrier. Even though there was a layer of frost on the protective soul barrier that depleted Jing Ziyan's soul power at an alarming rate, it didn't freeze. She created several black figures which attacked towards Hu Yuhao at the same time, then retreated with haste. Hu Yuhao accurately caught the black figure bursting towards Wang Dong. That was Jing Ziyan's close combat soul tool, the explosive nine-tailed whip. This soul tool had a special ability. It would vibrate at a high frequency when it collided with something. Anything that was struck by it would face a powerful explosion. If struck against a person, their body would be blown to pieces, provided without any defensive tools. However, this explosive nine-tailed whip was very effective at overcoming Soul Master's defensive soul skills and Soul Engineer's protective soul barriers. Hu Yuhao had once resisted it using his Ice Empress armor and suffered quite a bit. The explosion that he had faced was powerful, and when it happened his skin and muscles were wounded. Jing Ziyan was a little shocked when she saw Hu Yuhao reaching for the explosive nine-tailed whip. Usually, Hu Yuhao used his ghost shadow perplexing track to avoid it. He used his left hand, covered with diamond ice crystals, to grab the whip, and a tremendous explosion rang out. However, Hu Yuhao still managed to grab hold of the whip tightly. He didn't relax his grip at all. Only a portion of the diamond ice crystals blew apart, barely revealing the skin underneath. The depletion of Jing Ziyan's soul power was still great, because she had unleashed her Class 6 protective soul barrier within the domain of perpetual ice. She couldn't sustain it. Hu Yuhao's domain-type soul skill would last for some time, especially under the support of the Haodong power. Presently, Wang Dong's palms were pressed against Hu Yuhao's back. His arms had turned completely golden. The auxiliary capabilities of the golden light left arm bone and broken devil of light right arm bone were completely brought forth at this point. Not only did Hu Yuhao receive the usual support of Haodong power, but the restoration of his soul power was also faster by a few times compared to the past. However, they were fighting 2-on-2. Just as Jing Ziyan was about to give up on her explosive nine-tailed whip to escape from the domain of perpetual ice, Ji Juechen's extraterrestrial meteoric sword entered the fray. The huge spirit eyes appeared very deep. On a closer look, it seemed to contain a boundless world. At this moment, a beam of light that was a combination of blue, purple, and gold shot out. It shot straight, and everything that crossed its path became nothingness. That instant of brightness seemed to last an eternity. The tricolored beam of light left a blurred trail behind as it shot forward. Ji Juechen's sword contained a forward-moving, indestructible sword intent. That was why his attack would never change, even if his sword left his hand. Hu Yuhao was too familiar with him. Along with the unparalleled detection capabilities of his spiritual detection, that bright light extended more than 5 meters in width and 100 meters in length. It extended all the way until it hit the walls of the academy. Ji Juechen's figure was swallowed by the tricolored light. His forward-moving momentum didn't change, but his sword intent was destroyed. The light dispersed, Hu Yuhao and Wang Dong reappeared in Jing Ziyan's view again. But, with Jing Ziyan flabbergasted, she forgot to unleash her next attack, even though the domain of perpetual ice had disappeared. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. What did I just see? A blue, purple and gold beam of light that was 5 meters wide, 3 meters tall and 100 meters long. My God! What soul skill is this? Even a 7 or 8-ringed soul master could only match that power after they unleashed their martial soul true body. She was even more shocked that the tricolored light left a gully that was almost 5 meters wide, shining with a bright golden color. A patch of gold had also formed on the wall of the academy. Furthermore, the wall, built with stainless steel, was melting at alarming speeds. A wide opening was revealed as a result of that. The golden fluid that was formed after the wall melted was also very strange. Ji Juechen stopped less than 5 meters away from Hu Yuhao and Wang Dong. He was still holding his sword, as if he wanted to strike. However, his sword looked a little out of shape. A strange glow was subtly revealed on its surface. What soul skill is this? No, it should be a martial fusion soul skill. Jing Ziyan exclaimed. She had completely forgotten that it was a 2-on-2 fight. Hu Yuhao almost cursed, those rascals, surely they won't actually follow us back to Shrek. Wang Dong glanced at Hu Yuhao and smiled. Why? What's going on? You didn't seem like enemies. Hu Yuhao laughed bitterly. They are fanatics. They are always pestering me to spar with them. Today's another of my lucky days. Second brother, you've given me a huge surprise. As he spoke, Hu Yuhao suddenly turned around and hugged Wang Dong tightly once again. My brother, I'm delighted to see you again. Hu Yuhao's direct and emotional words caused Wang Dong to tear up slightly. He hugged him back and muttered, me too. He Kai too stood there and was a little annoyed as he said, the two of you can continue being intimate, I guess. I'll return first. We'll eat together later. I'll inform Teacher Fan Yu for now. In fact, Wang Dong was barred from entering the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy when he came by this morning. He said that he was from Shrek and asked someone to help look for the exchange students. He had managed to locate Hikaitu, who easily recognized him. Hikaitu was surprised, and decided to give Hu Yuhao a surprise as well. It was only now that the guards standing at the academy's gates walked over. There were 4 of them. Their leader was brief as he said to Hu Yuhao, Student Hua, you've breached the school rules today. Come with us to make a statement. Hu Yuhao relaxed his hug with Wang Dong. But, before he even said anything, he was interrupted by Wang Dong. Why don't you chase after the other 2? Why are you finding fault with us? Do you think we're easy targets for bullying just because we're from Shrek? We can make a statement if you want. However, you'll need to fight us first. While he was very gentle when he was with Hu Yuhao, he was actually still very arrogant, just like when he had first met Hu Yuhao. He was extremely displeased, as his reunion with Hu Yuhao was being disrupted. The guards were a little annoyed. We won't fight. We're not sandbags. Don't put us in a spot. Student Hua, it's not that we're not giving you face. However, the damages are too obvious. If the academy asks, we can't account for them. As he spoke, he pointed to the results of the Golden Road. Hu Yuhao wasn't an unreasonable person. In addition, why would he be calculative against these guards? He was apologetic as he said, I'm sorry, I'll pay for the repairs needed for the walls and road. However, it's not exactly my fault. Ji Juechen and Jing Ziyan provoked us first. You have seen everything. They were the ones chasing me. Please tell the truth when you report this to the academy. I'll record a statement to help out. The guards were relieved with Hu Yuhao's cooperation. They got a better impression of him from that. Wang Dong's voice sounded a little strange as he asked, do you think my hair looks better longer or shorter? Of course it looks better longer. Hu Yuhao blurted almost instantaneously. When Wang Dong asked that question, Hu Yuhao recalled the time when they had unleashed the raiment of light together. The flowing long hair that resembled tidal waves gave Hu Yuhao an overly strong impression. Oh. Wang Dong stared at Hu Yuhao's lackadaisical eyes and asked, what are you thinking about? Hu Yuhao shook his head. He sighed and said, I was thinking about the 4th martial soul fusion skill that we used during the last Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy Soul Dueling Tournament. Our solitary dance amidst the frost, raiment of light. Do you still remember? Do you remember the shadows that we projected? How nice would it have been if you were a girl? You would have been stunning. I feel like you were the blueprint for the figures that we conjured, except I have no clue why you became a female. Wang Dong's face blushed faintly, and he said with a bashful voice, so what if I was a girl? What does that have to do with you? Hu Yuhao was still reminiscing on the enchanting scene that was still vivid in his memory. He didn't pay attention to the change in Wang Dong's voice as he chuckled. Of course it has something to do with me. The pavilion closest to the water enjoys the first moonlight. It's better that I benefit from this, and not outsiders. Wang Dong laughed and said, if you really think that way, I'll introduce my sister to you after we finish this exchange program. She looks just like me, and she looks very similar to my projection during our raiment of light. Hu Yuhao's eyes sparkled. Really? That's great. You're such a good bro. He hugged Wang Dong across the shoulder as he spoke, and passionate warmth flowed uncontrollably from his eyes. Wang Dong snapped. I didn't think you were so big on physical appearance as well. Is it that important for someone to be good-looking? Hu Yuhao rolled his eyes and snapped back. Those that ask that question are either extremely good-looking or terribly ugly. Those who lack good looks also lack self-confidence, and maybe they lack the bravery to try. And those like you are just arrogant. She said that she was leaving, and she wanted to give me a present for our transient acquaintance. Hu Yuhao's emotional voice paused momentarily. Wang Dong was listening intently, and the bottom of his eyes started becoming moist. This girl was so pitiable. No wonder you have such chemistry. With her there are many similarities in your backgrounds and experiences. What present did she leave for you? Hu Yuhao whispered, she kissed my cheek. She said that was the first kiss that she had given, but she said she couldn't kiss my lips without my permission. She said she hoped that I would leave my first kiss for the girl of my dreams. Wang Dong trembled, and a strange light pulsed from his eyes. She was so nice to you. Always thinking about you. Since you were clear-headed back then, why didn't you consider getting together with her? I think age isn't a problem for us soul masters at all. She's so kind, and so pitiful. Did you not feel anything for her, not even a little bit? Hu Yuhao lowered his head and stared at the ground. His brief acquaintance with Juzi was long gone, but he could vividly remember every detail. I thought I would be moved as well. In fact, I did feel something for her, but I realized that all I felt for Juzi was compassion and sympathy, and a little bit of pity. I want to thank her, because she helped me understand what a romantic relationship means. Wang Dong, eh? Wang Dong responded, confused. What's wrong? Hu Yuhao stared into his eyes and said, I want to say something, but you cannot laugh at me. Wang Dong said, what is it? Hu Yuhao said, when we used the solitary dance amidst the frost, raiment of light for the first time, the projection that we conjured was heavily imprinted into my mind. Juzi moved me, so I finally understood what I felt inside. It may sound a little ridiculous, but I'm afraid I fell in love, at first sight, with the projection that we created. Wang Dong's eyes widened. You? Part 1 end here.